Good evening, everyone. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land where QUT now stands. I wish to pay respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the important role that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people continue to play in the QUT community. Well, welcome to another great QUT LS education event. Tonight we have the Fisher Dore Criminal Law Information Evening, and we're very excited to have three fantastic panelists speaking with you this evening. We have Sam Wildermuth, Solicitor. We have Lauren Phelps, Partner, and Principal Nick Dore. I'll pass over to them for a personal introduction and to start tonight's discussion.
Hi guys, how you going? I'm Sam Wildermuth. I'm a solicitor at Fisher Dore Lawyers. I only graduated from QUT last year and completed College of Law this year, and I've been admitted as a solicitor for about 2 months now. So I guess I'm here to tell you a bit about the early stages of my career and how I've kind of got into criminal law and the aspects I enjoy about criminal law. So I worked for a number of years in criminal law while I was still studying, and it gave me a lot of experience and exposure to the criminal law world, which I think it's a lot. It's different to what you'd see in the commercial world. I get a lot more hands-on experience. You get a hands-on role in the court every day. I appear in court every day, and it's quite an enjoyable job. It's a different world, criminal law, I think. The people you deal with every day, it's from every walks of life and things you didn't even know about happening all around you. So, my experiences in criminal law have always been good, and I'm pretty open to some questions once everyone else has introduced themselves.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, I'm Lauren. I wanted to talk to you tonight about the other areas of law that occur as a branch off from criminal law. So at Fisher Dore, we do a number of other areas such as parole applications, judicial reviews, show cause notices, things like that. So it's just to also let you know that you would be exposed if you did have a career in criminal law to those other areas, particularly administrative law is one area. So if that's a subject that you're interested in, keep studying on that one. But that's where I will discuss some things with you. And we've brought our principal along for the Q&A part of the session as well. So we'll just be brief with both of you, and then very happy to answer any questions. Go from there.
Yeah, as Lauren said, I'm just here to answer any questions you may have in relation to things. I started this firm 12 years ago with Terry, Fisher and myself. There was two of us. A solicitor. My background was in movies and trades. So I did a concreting apprenticeship before I went into law. I got into law by mistake while studying film. I did my articles. Go figure. I did back in the old days. We used to do what was called article clerkships, where for $12,000 a year, you did basically the grunt work for solicitors. I did that in the firm in Woodridge, and then from there worked in other areas, other criminal law firms. And started this with Terry when I was 29 years of age, and we're now the biggest criminal law firm in Australia. I'm here to answer questions, but I guess the reality is if you want to do crime, it isn't all about necessarily helping people with social justice. You'll be driven by that to a certain degree. There's also an economic reality of running law firms and sort of being a lawyer, but it really isn't about that tonight. It's more in relation to early career sort of stuff. I'm here to answer any questions you want afterwards, so don't be shy.
All right, we might open to the floor for questions. Would anyone like to start us off?
Oh, good. I was going to say, surely there are questions.
So for each of you, what drove you to get into criminal law in the first place as opposed to any other avenue?
I wanted to be a police officer, and I met Nick Dore, who at a function that wasn't particularly law related, but he asked me what I wanted to do with my career, and I said, I don't know. I was doing a justice degree and I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, so I thought maybe I'll join the police service. And he said, don't.
Not anti-police.
He's not anti-police. The rest of the sentence was, he said, don't. If you study law, I'll give you a job and see if you like criminal law. And I loved it within about 30 seconds. And that's it. I've never looked back. So it's not something that I had planned, but I'm very, very happy that that's where I landed. And I've worked for the firm for 12 years and done crime the entire time.
I did a bit of work experience. I was end of second year, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I did double degree with accounting. I kind of left my options open, and I did some work experience in a criminal firm and just loved it. I loved going to courts and trials and all the court processes. So I did 3 weeks of work experience at a firm, and then they offered me a job for the next year. I worked there for a few years, loved it, and then started at Fisher Dore about a year ago, and I've enjoyed it ever since.
Like I said, I had no interest in law. I don't particularly have a massive interest in law. Well, I don't. I mean, yeah, it isn't something I was ever passionate about. I'm not overly passionate about it. I don't read books about it. I guess I enjoyed crime the most out of the subjects. You know what I mean? Didn't do very well in it, 4.5 or something like that. Did really well in jurisprudence, so I thought maybe I could write books about law, but I thought I'd have to read books about law. So, but seriously, it was the only thing I really had an interest in. It was, I guess, in background in trades and then in retail, it was more about being able to talk to people and being able to relate to people. And I'm not the world's greatest lawyer by any stretch of imagination. I'm a pretty good lawyer. I'm not the world's greatest lawyer, but I'm a reasonable communicator with people, so I like communicating with people. That was one of the things that attracted me to criminal.
Some very different pathways into where you got. We had a question over here.
Yeah, specifically related to criminal law, what would you say would be like some of the major differences between working in the public sector, like with the DPP or the legal aid, versus working in the private sector?
Geez, it's hard to answer that. You guys? I mean, I've only ever worked in private practice. I mean, I worked at the Crown for about 6 months. No, I was going to say 6 months, that's a lie. I lasted about 8 weeks in 1999. A particularly ordinary person fired me, which wasn't a bad thing. It was probably a good thing. But sort of hard. I mean, I've never really...
No, we work with people who've worked on both sides or at legal aid as well. Everyone works very hard. I guess in a private firm, as Nick said before, though, you always have to have the economic reality of practicing in your mind as well, whereas that isn't so much a pressure or a consideration, I guess, in the public sector. So you do have to still make financial decisions. Sometimes that means very hard conversations with clients or parents of clients that you probably wouldn't have to do in the public sector.
I mean, you never compromise on the representation, but at the same time, there's an economic reality of I've got to pay payroll tax. So I'd love to go and do that for the 15th time for this person, but they're going to have to pay. It's like saying to a builder, put a deck on, it costs you $20,000. Oh, while you're here, may as well knock a roof up too. Well, it's not quite. I mean, that's probably the biggest difference in relation to, and also to coming back to communication. I've been really lucky. I've got really good communicators and really good people. I've got some really ordinary ones too. So there's sort of 3 different, I guess, groups of lawyers. There's minders, grinders, and finders. So no matter where you fit, the beautiful part is in crime you can sort of fit in anywhere, but you have to have in the private sector a private practice background in relation to being financially viable. That's the biggest difference. From a perspective of is there any difference between doing defence and doing prosecution work, it probably shouldn't matter because you don't really, regardless of what TV shows tell you, you don't really, well, you shouldn't attack this job with any form of emotion at all. You can have empathy, but you should never exude sympathy. So a good lawyer should be able to jump over prosecution to prosecute and should be able to jump over.
Looking back at law school, would you guys have done anything differently?
I'm not going to answer that. I went to my contract exam. I went to my torts exam. I didn't know what tort was. With my constitutional law book or something, and when they opened it up, I looked up T and there was nothing in there, so I was probably not better. It's still at 52%, so single constitutional. But yeah, maybe these guys can answer that. They were at law school.
Sam was very recent, solid.
Yeah, I only graduated last year, so I guess I probably wouldn't change anything for me. I took an opportunity. I got offered a full-time job and study full-time, so I had a couple of pretty hard years there where I was working all day and then at uni at night. But I wouldn't change it for the experience I've got and now the exposure I've got as a solicitor. I've stepped into a role and I'm pretty confident in what I'm doing. So I don't think I've changed much with what I've done.
Neither would I. I would encourage everybody to try and get work experience while you're studying or work while you're studying. I know that that's not for everyone, but we get a lot of resumes come through our office on a daily basis. And some of the things that we look for are your extracurriculars, and that might be that you're packing shelves at night and studying during the day, or that you've been volunteering for Caxton or Women's Legal or something like that. Those things really do show your work ethic and your dedication to a career in law.
And network now, without being funny, and I'm 42, I wish I'd networked a lot more at university. I wish I'd done, stuff, I guess. I mean, I worked a lot, I studied, but I think networking is really important. Never underestimate that connection you can have with someone at a social event where you know them because of something. You don't know them very well, but you know them well enough that that person then introduces you to someone. Could be someone at a party who says, you shouldn't be a copper. Come and try law. You know what I mean? So just networking, having that connection, I think is really important to get that done. And that's not networking on the basis of please send me 54 LinkedIn friend requests because I have no idea what, read docs or something. But it's getting that real, in 10 years' time, you still know people from university. And if you can expand that, it's a really good client base.
No, some really interesting tips, especially in relation to networking and work experience. Is something that we're told a lot here at university. Do you have any recommendations on how we should go about getting work experience or work, or how you went about it yourselves?
When I was 25 years ago, so it was article clerkships back then. You had to go and do that. I don't know. Again, it comes in that way. But I can be honest with you, if the person who's doing my photocopy is really good at doing my photocopy, it means I don't have to interview 300 people for a job. The person doing my photocopy is more likely going to be an easy choice. You know what I mean? So don't oversell yourselves. And there aren't jobs for everybody in crime, and there just won't be with such a small community that not everyone's going to be employed in crime, but just sort of chip away at it. Just don't oversell yourselves is all I can say. Don't bombard. I mean, we're small firms, we're not Minter Ellison, we've got 45 members of staff, but we're not the sort of ones that have dedicated graduate programs. We're trying to do that. The real, excitable one who keeps emailing down, did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? Have you got my email? Yeah, I have. In the middle of a murder trial, I'll get to it on Saturdays because I'm also the human resource manager as well as the partner. So just don't be too overzealous. Everything, I guess, runs its course. And that's in crime because it is. Some law firms that advertise themselves as massive websites have 2 people. You know what I mean? They have a perception of being really big, but it's don't ham, I guess, would be my tip.
And there's always opportunities with the Director of Public Prosecutions. I almost undertook a clerkship there, but I got this other work experience and got the job. And I know a lot of people have done the Director's way and then got jobs from that, worked in the industry. And once you're kind of in criminal law, it's a lot easier getting jobs because people know people. As Nick was saying, it's quite a small industry relative to everything else. So it's more about, if you're really keen, taking whatever opportunity is, as Nick said, as a photocopier in the firm, take the opportunity and work hard and show that you're keen to be there, no matter what you're doing.
Lauren and I've never interviewed for a solicitor's position. I've never had an interview or an application. I had to advertise on Seek or any of those organisations. We've just employed from within, people vouching for people. I have, a criminal lawyer saying, I don't have a business. So the way it works is, in crime, you get some big jobs on your books. So you do a murder trial that goes for 8 weeks. Dedicating someone to that murder trial is very difficult. So if you're good for them, you plan forward and go, right, I need someone to do some work for me once in the murder trial. That murder trial finishes, someone says, not a job, the person's hired in that capacity. But then you get to say, like how Wildermuth sort of came to me, what do lawyers do? They then go into legal aid, you then say to someone, have you got a trial coming up? Yeah, actually, I really need some at the moment, such and such as on maternity leave. Well, here's one that's already trained, like cattle. Off you go. But that's sort of the reality of how you do it. You very rarely ever see an ad in the Courier Mail or in the Seek or whatever it is these days saying advertising for a criminal lawyer because we sort of hire within recommendations of vouching for people. And watching them, being able to see them. I haven't seen Sam for years do things. So I knew Sam to say hello to, have a cup of coffee with and stuff like that, So.
So once you're in, make the most of it.
Exactly.
Impress your employer, whatever it is, community legal centre or whatever, just impress them. If they say, sorry, no, that's okay.
That's right. No, please.
I was just going to say, if they say to you, start time's 8:30, so get there 15:15. Don't wait till it's 8:30. Stay till after 5. Offer to do the photocopy. Just things that make you memorable and impressive. And yeah, if you're great at photocopying, they'll probably keep you on. Or if they don't have a spot, they've got a mate who might, and in you go.
Don't understand, photocopy is really hard. To do photocopy properly, it's a skill.
Shocking. It's absolute shocking.
But I think being able to show that work ethic is really important for people that are entering the workforce.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We had a question at the back, Aaron.
Yeah, what are the more day-to-day or week-to-week challenges that you face in your job, and how do you overcome them?
Probably more relevant. You guys answer that question.
I guess some days you don't know what's coming. You're going into court, you don't know what magistrate you're getting, you don't know what your prosecutor's going to say, and just being ready for all the, expecting the worst but hoping for the best and being prepared, I think is the big thing. Every day you don't know what's happening, a new client's coming in, you've got to, on the spot, talk to them about something that they've only just raised with you. So I guess that's kind of the big thing.
And we have, sometimes our clients don't take our advice. So you then have to, it sort of works in with what Sam's saying, you don't know, like you expect your client to come ready for court with all of their material together that you've given them a list and their homework to do, and then they don't. For whatever thing has happened in their life, or they've just made a decision not to. So that can be really challenging because it means that you may have to completely recreate your submission to the court or your plan for the morning because it's not how you thought it was going to be. So often you can prep as much as you can, but our clients often can be the ones that throw the spanner in the works, so to speak.
But there's also the boring stuff we do as well. Like it isn't, what you do for 15 minutes in court is usually 15 hours of work to get it ready. There's a lot of reading, which if you're not a reader, would be boring. There's a lot of returning phone calls. There's a lot of, it is a good job. It's exciting. It's, all that sort of stuff. But it is also like university. You do have to read stuff. You do have to prepare things. There's a lot of waiting time with court. You go to court at 9 o'clock. You may not get on until 11 o'clock. Time management issues coupled with the billings and everything else that goes with it. So it's still a legal job. You still got to get that information from that brief into here and out to there. And there's a big gap in between that part and that part. You got to build boring stuff.
This is a good question. What's also the key parameters that you're looking for in a junior graduate solicitor? And from the context of professional parameters, educational, and also personal things that you really looking for in the person.
It's tough. I've never looked at anyone's education.
No,
I've never
wherever
looked at anyone's school or their school records or anything like that. So it's never, you're Captain McGibbon High. I went to Villanova. I've never really considered that overly important. I've never really looked at marks from there.
But if, like I said before, if you've been working full time and then you sit down in front of us and say, my GPA isn't wonderful, but that's because I've been working 2 jobs or raising my young family or whatever it is, that is something we look at again because of that work ethic that we like to see displayed. Personalities, we've got all manner of personalities in the firm. So
that's a big part of the question. Who makes a good criminal lawyer?
Oh, again, we've got people that are really great for very different reasons.
Yeah.
We've got Wildermuth clients love him immediately. He's very likeable, and you can just tell that he knows what he's doing. Others we've got that are probably not so personable to begin with, but once you start talking to them, you appreciate that their technical ability is quite amazing. So, if you do come with great grades from evidence and your crime subjects, then we will pay attention to that.
It's hard. We really I've never really considered it to
Yeah.
I mean, we have a real cross section in relation to who our people are. Most of them are pretty good. You know.
You have to have a level of confidence as well.
Yeah, I think that's a bit. And communication.
Yeah.
Communication's key. It really
you need
is.
to talk to people from all walks of life and to deal with some really unique personalities. Because if you can have a client sitting there, you've just given them the worst news in the world, and they get very emotional. So you need to be able to manage that, however that is. There's no one style, but you need to have those people skills.
And before you do apply, really think about whether or not, I don't want to scare people away, whether or not you really want to sit in a jail with someone who's raped a 6-year-old kid and look at the photos and take it through it without being funny. You know, I mean, you've really got to think. We've had a lot of people who say this is for them, and it's not a failing if it's not. It's just, you know, really have a real think about that. You know what I mean? It's
the reality.
Yeah, and we can't test that at interviews. We do a lot of work at the moment in relation to institutional abuse, where we're part of it. Anyway, we're suing the government for abuse that occurred to people in correctional centres in the 90s and stuff like that. And these people come to us as a result of them being incarcerated for long periods of time for very bad crimes. Yeah, it's day in, day out of talking to grown men, so people my age in their 40s, talking about really bad rapes that have occurred to them, really bad sexual offending that has occurred to them as children, people who murdered people themselves, who are crying. It's, you know, it is really, don't ever underestimate that. It's not every day, but it's hard stuff. It's a situation where you go, I'm spending all day at Woodford talking to this person who crushed his 5-year-old son's head in his hand. It's hard stuff to do. You know what I mean? It's very hard to gauge it from an interview with someone. But we always raise that with people. And I've never had one person ever say to me, it won't be a problem. But I've had 15% of people leave when it has become a real problem. You know what I mean? Ricky.
Michelle?
My question was kind of related to that. How do you deal with that if you have a particular client or offence that you find personally affects you and difficult to deal with? How do you kind of work through it?
We debrief amongst ourselves because we all know what we're all going through. We've all had that difficult person, or probably a few of them, on our books. I don't know.
I mean, there's the Law Society offers counselling and stuff like that.
It does. Yes.
But personally, I mean, I think after time, it's like anything. You just sort of get used to it, so as to speak. You know, the people around you don't. Can I tell you that? People around you don't. People around you don't understand how you can talk about varying degrees of pain, or what's a good murder and what's a bad murder. Or, you know, it does, because it's just, if you're doing high volume crime, I've done, I think the last count was 97 murders or something in 10 years been involved in. So you do, you know, how you get around it, it's a personal thing. You know, some people drink, some people talk, some people play rugby, some people go for a run. It's hard. I mean, I'm very cognizant, and so is Lauren, of it, and I try to moderate the amount of that sort of stuff people do at any one time. But if you find the answer, please let me know. I'll tell my wife, she'll go, that's great. Do more of those sessions.
Ebony, did you have a question?
I was just wondering if you could tell us about some of the most interesting cases that you've worked on and what made them interesting for you.
Oh, God.
I guess this is indicative of what we've got in our everyday life, is that if any of our matters, I guess if we told you guys, would sound really cool, but for us it's a bit
Tosti would be
run of
a
the
pretty
mill.
good one for you guys.
Yeah, if you Google Nick Dore's name, you'll see some of the interesting
Tosti
things
was
that
a big
it's done.
case. Yeah, Tosti. Look, anything that has an impact, without being funny, I'm the reason why you need to have an ID to get Sudafeds now, because I ran a trial, I won it, and they said, we'll just change the law. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Sorry for everyone. Sorry for everyone to get colds. What can you do? That was a good one. Ferguson, we changed the Jury Act.
Yeah.
Went to the High Court, and they said, no, just amend that, so that was good. Renwick, we rolled the first no body, no parole the other day. That sort of stuff's good. I guess, you don't always get, we're in 30 courts a day. You don't always get that sort of achievement. But when you actually feel as though you've achieved something, whether rightly or wrongly, We never really celebrate wins, so as to speak, because when we win, someone does lose, and there's always a fair bit of, well, yeah, it's not necessarily sport, but it's interesting ones. I don't know. I mean, some are pretty macabre, you know. But yeah, anything's got a result. I think where the law changes. I think it's pretty impressive stuff to say. I'm sorry, but you have to use ID to get to it now. You know what I mean? But I tell you, my wife told me for years I was an architect. You know what I mean? Just so that they didn't ask me, questions in relation to that sort of stuff. Because you just, in your early days, that's all you talk about is rape, robbery, assault, this, that, You guys, what's the most interesting you've ever done?
Now, we had a trial recently where this guy in his 60s or 70s, he had a friend in overseas saying, mate, can I send you some packages? And he got these ornaments wrapped up at the post office. He picked them up in the truck and he goes, this is a bit weird. Went home, thought about it for a day, emailed, so what's the go with this? They said, no, it's all good, we'll pick it up tomorrow. He took it to the Bribey police station. He said, look, this is really weird. Can you guys check it out? They said, no, go to Caboolture. He went to Caboolture. They said, no, we don't care. Go away. He went back to Bribey the next day and said, open the package. I don't know what it is. I'm real freaked out by it. They opened it and there was 50 kilos of methamphetamine. And then police charged him.
Yeah. That was a good one to win that one. Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah, so, you should break that one.
Yeah. So he took it to police. He took the whole, they had no evidence of this whole importation racket. And he took it to police, helping them. And then he did an interview, explained what happened, gave them all the emails. And at the end of the interview, they said, no, you're under arrest. And so that went all the way to the Supreme Court. A couple of months ago, he went to trial and he was found not guilty. But yeah, it's quite an interesting case where someone's just a layperson getting charged with such a serious offence where he would have gone to jail for a very long time.
And I was involved in, I had 10 of the bikie brawlers that brought in all that, banditos that brought in all that flag stuff that created absolute turmoil in the legal world for about 12 months. That was a good being part of that. You know what I mean? That was the least interesting because things were changing for the worse in the state as a result of one blue. It's probably no worse than what you see in a football field. But just the pandemonium that ensued, that was an interesting one just from what was going on in the background with bikies at the time. So, yes, sorry. Yeah, please do.
So I'm a mature age student, and when I've said to people, I'm almost 40 and I've gone back to uni, they're like, so what do you want to go into? I'm like, I want to go into criminal law, and they're like, it's very ageist. And I'm like, okay, so is that true? And how valuable is that experience?
Because we're criminal lawyers.
We don't have to say.
But no, not at all.
No, not at all. No.
Real world. Look, it depends on what your real world experience is as a mature age student, you know what I mean? To a certain degree, as to what you bring to your own world experience.
Career change.
Right, see, no, I don't, look, certainly from our perspective, it's never been a deal breaker. I've had mature age students, I've had mature age lawyers. No, whoever's telling you that, look, some people might, I don't know, but certainly my firm wouldn't. No, would it be an advantage potential? You know what I mean? Because having people who've got good communication skills, that's what I mean about what complete career change is. If it's someone who's got good communication skills, again, or some real life experience, or really good contacts, or something along those sorts of lines, so that could be an advantage over someone who's 22 who doesn't have that sort of experience. So yeah, they don't rule it out by any stretch.
Considering some of the inherent difficulties with the subject matter that you're talking about, how would you, if you're trying to sell criminal law, what would you say about it? It's great that you love it, even though, there are these.
Well, I guess most clients we deal with, I don't think they're bad people.
No.
A lot of people come from a bad situation or a bad, upbringing. A lot of our institutional claims are also criminal clients, and they're not generally bad people, but they're a product of their environment. And so a lot of the time you're there trying to help them as much as you can because, a lot of the time, even though they've done bad things, they're not bad people.
Yeah, the social justice, there is, regardless of my whole billable units rubbish, there is a large degree of doing this job where it is good to help people and it is good to, the underdog sort of thing. Because some of these people, you've got to be fair and equal. Some of these people have not got a great start from the very beginning. You know what I mean? No one has said, you know what, I really hope I grow up being poor and hungry and destitute or being impoverished or doing whatever. No one's ever had that as their dream. And unfortunately, you deal with all that. So the selling point that I always say to people is if you have to have a genuine interest to help people. There's no point doing it if you don't have a genuine interest in helping people. Okay? And there is a lot of positives that come from people, particularly people who can't afford it themselves. Now, my office does do legal aid work. A lot of firms that won't do legal aid work, I've been told by accountants to stop doing legal aid work. But for as long as I'm in Fisher Dore Lawyers and have equity in the firm, we will do legal aid work. And we'll also consider pro bono work. We'll always do legal aid work because I think it's a very important thing that we do give back to that level. Does that answer? Yeah.
I was wondering if any of you guys have ever considered being barristers, so going to that next step.
As a solicitor, I guess as a barrister, you don't have the same level of client contact that you do as a solicitor. And to enjoy doing criminal law, you have to enjoy that contact with your clients and helping them, like Nick was saying. And, taking their 20th phone call for the day and explaining to them, talking to the mum, absolutely. And mum calls in tears and you have to talk her through it. So there's a lot of client care that you don't practice as the barrister. You meet them a couple of times and it's a completely different job. So I wouldn't do that because I really enjoy that sort of on the ground work with the client.
And if you get a good, a lot of the young practitioners, I still do a bit of advocacy here and there. Not as much as what I used to, but when you're a younger practitioner, you do a lot of it. And I see these guys come back and girls who work with the junior practitioners, and it's exciting stuff. It's like driving a car for the first time, which, riding your bike or doing whatever you do, it's exciting. You know what I mean? So doing the advocacy is, and that's why, I guess as a criminal solicitor, you do a lot of it, but then you've got to farm the rest of the barrister sales to speak, because you can't sit in trials for 4 days and see clients who return on phone calls and stuff like that. But you still do a lot of advocacy and from my perspective, I expect a lot of advocacy from my junior practitioners because it's the way you learn, it's the way you learn quick on your feet, it's the way you have to absorb things quickly, and that makes you a better lawyer, a better communicator anyway. But no, we'll get about that.
Well, I've considered it. I'm still obviously early in my career.
I'm going to start doing interviews soon. You're going to come and ask the questions.
So I'm only 22. I've been in the industry for a few years, but only last 2 months been a proper advocate. So I'm still finding my feet. I love being a solicitor and I love the people side of things and all that. But, I'm keeping my options open. Maybe in 20 years I might want to change or I could enjoy it. I'm just still too early in my career to decide which way I'm going to go. So we'll just have to wait and see.
And on that point, if you are to go to the bar, getting a job in a criminal law firm is really good because you at least have contacts. So we have someone at the moment who's doing the bar practice course who's been effectively a solicitor advocate for a long period of time in my firm. He will go to the bar and I'll give him lots of work. I know him, I trust him, I know he'll do a good job. But you see a lot of people who go to the bar straight up, who sit there and hang the shingle up and go, right, who's going to brief me? And we go, well, who are? You know what I mean? How are you going to get your runs on? Up the back.
I was going to say...
Sorry, Lauren, I'm controlling this. Sorry. I felt like I've come to work.
Worst experience in front of a judge or a magistrate?
Oh, look. I need to be very careful in relation to this because there's no, only because there's a massive push at the moment in relation to the courtroom being a workplace and a big issue in relation to judicial bullying. But I mean, look, worst experience is probably it's sort of hard. I mean, I had some shockers, but never misinformation or whatever. I mean, I've had clients wrong. You know what I mean? I've had someone standing beside me, I think, was somebody, then it wasn't somebody. You know what I mean? I know it sounds odd, but that sort of stuff can happen. You've got 20 matters on. This is Bill. Bill's here to do this, that, and the other. He goes, I'm not Bill. You'll be right. You get it. You get it done. know what I mean? I mean, all of us have been, probably not Sam, I don't know, but all has been torn down by a judge, where you've been almost in tears, where they have bullied you, or where they have kicked you out of court, or where they have done all sorts of strange things, but probably getting the client mixed up was the first thing.
Yes.
I mean, and it wasn't pleading for doing it, it was just a mention, so it wasn't like he was going to jail. he was in safe hands there. It was okay.
Did you want to elaborate more on the judicial bullying?
No, I can't. I mean, look, it's sort of hard. I'll speak in very general terms in relation to the judiciary are great. Judicial appointments are fantastic. Everyone on the bench is superb. Now, in relation to bullying, I guess, it's like any workplace. People get tired, they get cranky, they have a particular standard or level of work, or sometimes they misconstrue what people say. But there has been instances in the recent couple of years of people who've now felt they have a voice to actually say, please don't yell at me, there's no need to yell at me in front of people. And that's taken the judiciary a little bit back in relation to, well, hold on, we're up here, you're down there. Well, actually, when we're in this space, we're all in it sort of together. But, every now and then, some magistrates like to towel up the new kid, which isn't great, and that is probably bullying, because it's probably no different to telling up the new kid on a football field or whatever. But those days are certainly changing with the way the judicial appointments are made these days. Anyway, that's probably all I can really say without getting myself in trouble. I've been relatively outspoken in relation to the past, so I'll just leave it on.
I don't think I've had any particularly bad experiences. I've been yelled at and whatnot, but as a clerk, the good thing was not my file.
Nick stuff this one.
This is Mr. Dore's file.
Yeah, that's right. You remember the bloke who did for the wrong client? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they all have very different personalities, different styles. And along the way, I have, and as a clerk, it was that I did cry when I left a courtroom once, because a particular person on the bench just did that to young people. It was a bit of a blooding that you got. But I learned from it. I just sort of had to turn it into an experience. And it also, when you do see it happening to other people, again, it shouldn't be happening, but it makes you sit there and think, oh God, well, I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm going to come more prepared next time and be hopefully ready for whatever's coming my way. So it can mould you into a bit of a stronger advocate.
But you shouldn't tolerate it.
Not saying it should be tolerated at all, but hopefully if you are then the person who appears before that person is prepared as you can absolutely be and ready for any question that may come your way, well then it might not happen. One day it will be really lovely to see that we don't have to face anyone that causes someone to cry as she leaves the courtroom.
And look, and they're human beings too, and we'll have bad days, don't we? Where someone might end up on the receiving end of me being cranky that probably didn't deserve it, you know what I mean? It's so you've got to cut, and it gets too, there's been a lot of studies too in relation to judges too, that they're dealing with the same stuff we're dealing with, in the sense of they're sitting there looking at murder photos for 2 weeks of the same murder trial that we're all sitting there looking at. They're hearing the same stories of abuse and the same stories of assaults and stuff like that, but it's bound to have an effect on them. But all in all, we have a good relationship with the bench, good rapport with them, and
So going back on law being such a people-focused industry, how do you help those that I guess maybe are unhelpable per se, or don't want to, or unhelpable, or don't want to be helped?
They don't want help?
Yeah, they're just being very difficult. They don't want to cooperate with you. They like, I'm guilty. Like, I don't want any help. I don't know why they sent me. Like, sent you my way.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of that, and the ones you do get like that. As you get older, you get a lot better at going, okay. And leaving. But, young people go, we knew this, but he can look after himself that way. And,
Sorry. Yeah. How do you cope with maybe like a loss of a case, or maybe if it wasn't your, I guess, competency that maybe hindered the loss of the case, but maybe your client just wasn't being cooperative?
Oh, look, I've lost cases I should have won and won cases I should have lost. I think we've all done that. I guess if they stuff it up themselves, you can only lead the horse to water, so to speak. You know what I mean? We can't tell people what to say. Right? It's an age-old question. How do you represent someone if you know they're guilty or you know they did it? Well, 99% of people didn't. There's no doubt at all about that. If they tell you, it's a different situation. You know what I mean? If they say, I did this, but I still want to plead not guilty. Well, ethically, your obligation then is to the court, and you can still represent that person, you can still put the crown to proof. You just can't suggest someone else did it. There's a whole lot of things you can't do as a result. Now, I've won plenty of trials like that where people said to me they're guilty. I did this, put them to proof. You don't feel bad about it. And when you lose things, you get disappointed when you lose things. You probably get disappointed. You shouldn't get disappointed because you're upset with the client, but you get disappointed sometimes because you put a lot of time into something. You know what I mean? It's your house of creation, I guess. You spend 2 years. Some of these people, I've acted for 3 generations of my family. Like, I know them better than I know my cousins. I acted for grandma, mum, and the granddaughter, and luckily she's just had a little bub too. So, Sam, there you go, four generation. But they're a criminal family. You know what I mean? But it's probably more when you lose things, you think, shit, what was all that about? What have I just done 2 years on for that to go? But most times you usually know what's going to happen in the trial. You know if you're going to lose or not.
Does your credibility, I guess, suffer in that instance? Like, if it makes it on the news or something, and then the case has been lost or something like that?
Oh, look, there was a bit of, not really. I mean, everyone likes to have an opinion on other people's trials. So with that Tosti one I did, there was a lot of people who had a lot of opinions. And I know no matter how I went, I had people telling me in that one, oh, he's round as a hoop for murder. Oh, it should be manslaughter. Oh, he should walk. So everyone hedged their bets. Now, if I had lost that one, there would have been a lot of, how did you lose that? But when I won it, no one said, wow, that's amazing. He should have always walked. Or lots of people did come and go, oh, it was always being able to walk on that. You've got to understand that there's a lot of ego in this game as well. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people with a lot of ego. And I've been accused of it myself, a lot of narcissism that comes with this territory. You don't want people to fail, but you also don't want them necessarily. I certainly don't advocate for that in my firm with other firms. But no, you never get embarrassed if you lose.
I guess sort of building on from that question, given it's such an adversarial process, like a criminal trial, what's the general relationship between sort of defence firms and public prosecutions, police prosecutors? Is it very collegiate or?
Look, I find this, others may say it's not. I've always been someone who I'd rather say something nice and be a friend than go all adversarial, because you don't have to be adversarial when your client's not around. They don't know you'd be so proud of the client. I just yelled at the prosecutor. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, they're just doing their job, we're doing my job. So certainly in my office, I get really cranky if I hear that my staff are being adversarial for the sake of arrogance or trying to put something forward with members of the prosecution, whether police or DPP, because I just don't think it's very good business. But as a result, I get a lot of referrals when those people, family members, get themselves in trouble and stuff like that, because it's still part of all that. But no,
No, I agree. It's still a workplace and we have to work with them every day. And some of them are people that we went to uni with or college, and we all. And some of
them just aren't good human beings.
No, that's
same as criminal lawyers. There's some people just go, I would not be your friend.
Yeah.
You don't like country music. I like country music. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be like, but so don't hold that against John. What you would be my friend. But no, so again, there's a human element, but no, there's never, certainly not from my firm. You've worked at other firms. I worked at other firms. There's never been pushed towards us against them.
No, not at all. And no, you've got to see these people every day. If you're not getting along with them, it's just going to make your job harder, because they'll make it harder for you. And you see that people are too difficult with the prosecutors for no reason.
Yeah,
makes their day a lot longer and makes everything a lot harder if you're not, don't have a good relationship with everyone you're working with, even on the other side.
in your reputation, what people say about you when you're not around. You know what I mean? And that's probably the most important thing is you've got to make sure that what they're saying is nice things about you. All it takes one person to go, geez, that makes a wanker. And then the whole floor thinks for no reason at all. For maybe really not.
Rana?
How do you, like you mentioned that you like had clients previously like tell you that they're guilty and then you still like want to, how do you reconcile that, like knowing that someone's done something so awful that might go against like what you fundamentally believe and represent and get them off and out there in society?
This is where my wife says I'm an architect.
And this is the dinner party question
That's
for
right,
every criminal lawyer.
I don't know. I think it's important to test those that prosecute us. You know what I mean? That they didn't do their job well enough to get it over the line. That if that person hadn't confessed to me that they've done it, and when I say confess, it isn't like the moves they sit there and go, I did it, now get me off. You just say to them, we're going to have some real problems with your instructions, aren't we? You know what I mean? And nothing, I'm not going to say nothing's been that bad that you can't sleep at night having done it, but it's one of those things, that's why they're there. So we prosecute, that's why we sort of defend. So that's a really long way of me not being able to answer your question because I don't know. I've never really given it that much thought, to be honest with you.
Well, we operate within a system. Like there are rules that we have to comply with, prosecution and police do when charging someone or arresting them. So it's all about, prosecution having to prove it, police having to have complied with all of their rules when charging, and then they have to prove it. It's not up to us to disprove it. So if they haven't done their job, or if the jury has decided, well, then that's our system working. That you've had 12 people decide, well, that person's not guilty.
And on the flip side, I've had a lot of innocent people get found guilty. I've had a lot of innocent people get found not guilty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The ones, and after a while, you get pretty good at spotting fiddlers. But when some kid's made something up, or when there's some sort of conspiracy, or when the evidence is that bad that no one should be convicted, but because of the nature of the charge, that person being convicted. They're probably the harder ones, to be honest, the ones where you go, how the hell did the jury come to that conclusion? Did they see the same trial I saw? Or was it because he had a neck tattoo? Or was it because the charge was child sex offence? I'm telling you now, if you go before a jury charged with child sex offences, you've got an 85% chance of being convicted. You know what I mean? It's hard. They're hard to win. All it takes is one person saying, this happened to me 5 years ago, and I told my mum about it. And you're sitting there with someone with no previous criminal history going, yeah, mate, you're going to jail for 6 years. You know what I mean? They're probably harder conversations to have with people there. Someone says, look, I robbed the 7-Eleven. So I'm not giving you any evidence. And robbing 7-Eleven is pretty bad stuff too, don't get me wrong. I worked in retail, I was robbed. But I was. I just ran video stores, that's another story over Tenerife before it was cool. But, it's hard across the board, if that makes sense. The jury system's not perfect.
Do you find the really element-based nature of criminal law boring?
I find it boring all the time. Well, I do. I say that all the time. It's really boring to me. I'd say,
Yeah, I guess so.
Still work.
Really thought about
I'd rather be skiing. It's still going to a job every day and seeing the same people. Oh, cool. You're still here.
I guess it can be kind of easy though. It's an easy thing to explain to your client, I guess, when you've got elements.
Yeah.
Because, we've had people refuse to believe that they're charged or going to be convicted of trafficking, for example.
Yeah.
And it has quite a broad definition. So I have printed off a page of the legislation and slammed it down in front of her and said, read this.
I didn't write the law.
Yeah, exactly. And then they go, oh, yeah, okay. So it's not a bad way to communicate to them.
And the elements it's formed from the evidence, so at least that part can be interesting. A lot of the time, actually looking at the evidence and what the evidence actually tells you, and if that actually fits into the elements of the offence. So it's not a matter of 1, 2, 3. It's actually looking at all the pieces and see how they come together to prove certain elements and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, a bit of a left field question.
Oh, yeah.
But, well, not really. But how do you find cross-cultural communication in your work?
Cross-cultural?
Like with like Indigenous clients or anything like that, Sudanese clients?
Look, I mean, I've never really considered, I mean, we have a very multicultural base in relation to our clients. We've always treated everyone sort of the same. I mean, I accept that there are cross-cultural difficulties. We have a lot of language difficulties where interpreters are required. But I mean, it's never really presented itself as much of a problem over and above that. And certainly from my perspective, I've always just explained to my staff very importantly that everyone's exactly the same, whether that's a really good question.
It is. I mean, I've attended, and I'm sure other staff have as well, workshops throughout my career particularly on communicating with Indigenous clients, because there are cultural barriers there, for example, where you can't just sort of have the benefit of an interpreter. So there are there's information out there that I've then passed on to junior staff along the way if they come to me with a bit of a difficulty. So, but you do just sort of get used to it as well, and know that if someone's not looking you in the eye, they're not disrespecting you. Sometimes we also have a particular gender who isn't comfortable with a lawyer of the same or a different gender as well, so we accommodate that.
And I mean, and there's some clients from some nationalities of other countries where completely different social taboos exist that are actually offences over here. You know what I mean? That can be quite difficult, particularly in relation to inappropriate touchings or personal spaces or zones or whatever. That getting that across, they actually can't just do that. What do you mean? That's what we do in my country. That can be quite difficult for some of the younger practitioners to completely get their head around.
Zane?
You mentioned that you really think that it's important for the police and prosecution to comply with the rules. Do you think that the current public policy discretion we have for illegally obtained evidence is reasonable, or would you prefer to see something closer to what they have in the United States, where most illegally obtained evidence is allowed?
Look, I think if you remove discretion from the judiciary, you have a real problem with that. I think once you politicise it, I think as long as there's always a discretion to protect those, you know what I mean, then I don't think there should be a blanket in relation to that. I think as long as there's a discretion in relation to fairness, and that fairness is determined by sensible members of the judiciary. And again, judiciary, it's, door A could be completely different to door B as to who's doing it. I mean, I have very serious concerns in relation to people's right to silence and the removal of that, and we are removing slowly over time more and more people's rights to silence. I mean, we've increased the inherent powers in relation to listening devices. We've increased the use of the star chambers where they remove your right to silence. I mean, there would be statistics that people would find staggering. Up to 4 or 5 people every day are going into government buildings and being forced to remove their right to silence under the threat of imprisonment. Happens down Fortitude Valley and over. Where's that place? Where's the one in Milton? Near the pub there. Near Milton. People. It is concerning.
And we see people go to jail.
Yeah, for not
answering the questions.
And they bring them back out 12 months later after locking them up and solving the problem and say, "You can answer now?" No. Back you go. You know what I mean? It happens regularly. And the cross-contamination with popular media and communications and things like that now occur. There's a lot that goes on that we don't see. I mean, for every career male child killer that walks free, scot-free, you mean the person who got found guilty of accessory after the fact who did 5 years remanded in custody. For every one of those, there's another 100 matters going to the courts every day where the sentencing is right. Where there are big sentences being imposed for people getting big. And, we're talking about looking after people, looking somebody in the eye and saying, you are going to get 16 years jail for drugs. Yes, I know that sounds odd, but you end up in jail for 16 years for having 2 kilos of cocaine in your backpack. But yet you can kill somebody, you're responsible for their death, and you might get paid. So reconciling that is something else you need to be able to do relatively well as a criminal lawyer, to say that doesn't make any sense. But guess what? Smarter people than us came up with that a long time ago. So just deal with it. It's my soapbox.
At the back.
Do you have any interest in dealing with sort of like sovereign citizen type freedom on the land constitution?
Oh, we're going. Oh, mate, 40 minutes. This bloke sent it all right. I thought, what am I doing? I came here and I said, this is it. I do not take any more phone calls.
Never ask for Nick Dory to the phone.
All right. Invoking Queen's Bench, do you know that? How's that? So I had to get my Google out. I said, mate, I don't believe what you're saying. So I Googled it. I know you will, because the man couldn't arrest me because he's a private company. I said, I don't know how that some satellite sends something to my TV set. I've got no idea how TV sets. I've got no idea about how legislation's passed or how we vote for governments. But I can tell you, mate, that isn't right. And I Google it and I find out what he's talking about. He's in fact part of the Northern Ireland High Court invokes his power. I said, where were you pinched? Brussels. Where the hell's that? Outside Ipswich? Don't work, mate. So you can save yourself a trip. Not on your phone. It's called Google. Just type in what you're saying is. He goes, well, technically, because Scott was in 1973. No more free consultations, mate. Get that off the website. But yeah, but you do. Yes, and I shouldn't be so much because this bloke really believed it. But yeah, you do get it. There is a fair bit of that. So sorry, I should be careful. Some people here might be involved in that stuff. But yes, you do get a lot. Well, how is that a law? Why does that apply to me? I don't know. It's the law, mate. It's in the book. You know what I mean? 754, you did that. What do you for the boy? Well, although I think we were the only person to ever have someone actually. We had someone locked up in the family court for contempt. And downstairs in the family court, no history. They actually have cells in the federal court. And then when this bloke got sentenced, they didn't know what to do with him. They said, whose job's that? And then a girl comes out of the register, I think it's mine. And we went to this pristine new sort of cell or whatever it was here. Because he was one of those sovereign sort of, I don't have to give evidence here. I don't know if this court doesn't apply to me.
Yeah, and wouldn't pay fines because gold bullion is the only legal tender. Registers won't accept it.
Just talk to them, let it go. Yeah, until we went down the new cells, didn't we? And the next one was Peter Foster, who then used the cells about 6 months after. Anyway, yes, we do that. Any other questions? I'm going to stop because there's so many hands up. Warren?
I was wondering how much you help each other with so if you go to a court case and you really need someone else's advice, do you often go to each other for help?
Well, that's Lauren's full-time job.
Yeah, I'm like petrol station. But yeah, absolutely. So we've got how many lawyers in Brisbane? 10. Yes, so I don't know how many matters anyone has that someone else doesn't know about. So you're often, and we've got varying degrees of seniority. So there's always someone senior that someone else can go to bounce things off. I also take all of the ethical questions as well in the firm if anyone's got a conflict question or whatever it might be. So that is a huge part of our day, is talking things out. Or, if you know that I did this recently, I had a client coming to see me who'd been charged with fraud for a particular amount, and I hadn't done one for a while. So I just sent an email to all of the lawyers and said, what do you get for this amount? And then I got a flurry of emails back telling me the particular penalty range. So I was right for my conference. Yeah, so it's great. Yeah.
And because it's all court-based, lots of diary conferences to work out where to place people. So, we would have had on Monday 150 matters in courts between 10 of us that we had to cover. So you just sort of, by osmosis, know what's coming up and go, what we do tomorrow, put that plea, I need to talk to you about that. So there's a lot of, probably too much that you wouldn't get away with in other firms. And I'm sort of, so she's culture on balance where I'm going, well, stop while you're talking, go build something. You know what I mean? So, so from my perspective, there's way too much. I'm still going to pay the tax. Sorry, but Sam, you might be better to answer.
Yeah, well, as the kind of junior at the moment, it's good that there's so many different people I can go to, because I know what people's skills are, as Nick was talking about before. There's people with good client skills, people with the technical skills, and some people just have done certain things a lot of times. So I know I can go to so many different people in my office and go, mate, let's go here, or Lauren, can you help me with this? And there's always, someone to chat to about certain matters. So it's always a good thing, I think.
You learn a lot that way too.
I'm back.
When it comes time for the graduate to start their PLT, does your workplace encourage applications from, say, a QUT PLT school to do a, say, 4-week placement, or is that more something that you look at those people might say actually going to be there?
It depends. The last couple, we've always had someone who's been employed as a clerk, because it's just purely in relation to, do we have a computer desk available? Do we have that sort of stuff? But I mean, Lauren come up with, so we do graduate summer clerkships and things like that now, to try to encourage it like the big firms. But from a PLT perspective,
we don't have a set program.
No.
Again, it's more whether or not we have the capacity at the time. But I'll absolutely entertain an application that comes through for sure. Yeah, because we've also got offices in Maroochydore and Beenleigh that we have PLT students go to as well. So if anyone ever
or Bundaberg or Mackay, if you want to head up there.
Yeah,
we've got an office up there as well.
Yeah.
Never underestimate regional work, guys.
Actually, our law
Never
clerk in
underestimate
Mackay is from QUT, and he came and did some Beenleigh work experience, and we loved him. And then we had a spot become available in Mackay and said, "Would you like to move?" And he said, "Okay." And that was it. So
It doesn't exclude. Look, I don't know the other areas of law, but it certainly doesn't exclude you from crime. And if anything, if you can go and run an area that's got a magistrates court, a district court, a Supreme Court that's all in one building, it means you can multitask really well. And once you get used to that, I've just hired a solicitor who was down here for a couple of years and then went back to Townsville. And he's now a senior associate, 12 years, 13 years post-commission or something like that. And one of the reasons why I was drawn to bring him on board, it was probably the process to get him on because he had to relocate and do stuff, is the simple fact that he worked regionally and that he had a particular skill set in relation to being able to manage one building in 3 different jurisdictions and manage the clients on that basis. You don't always get in Brisbane. Absolutely hopeless now down here trying to run anything that involves suburban work or having to not go to one building. But from a one building perspective with full client management, the stuff you got in regional Queensland up in Townsville, you wouldn't get those sorts of skills here in Brisbane working online.
Just a quick question. I'm down in Ipswich, and so I'm wondering, is there like a firm out in the Ipswich area that you would recommend as a good firm to experience with?
Yeah.
Are you guys out next week?
No, so sorry. No.
There's a lot of work out there.
There's a lot of work in Ipswich, but there's a lot of work at Holland Park too. So, my dad, he lives in Hawthorne. He couldn't understand when I said that the massive drip cocaine syndicate was in Australia. Oh, there. But no, look, up there we use for our agents, a fellow named Mike Kelly from Belly Macmillan. They're quite good. There's lots of people. Yeah, there's a few out there. Queen Scatini there. I mean, I don't know if this will be recorded. They're really good too.
Fisher Khan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a few. But, it's a busy place.
What's his name? Crito.
Richmond's
he's good.
Yeah.
Richmond isn't too far away from Ipswich with Mike Cridley. Oh, it's on the Ipswich motorway, isn't it?
It's like half an hour to leave us at the
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. That's you've been half an hour in the grand scheme of things, isn't that? I mean, I send people to Gimpy for stuff. That's 2 hours. But there's a few out there. Yes.
For someone who likes crime and doesn't want to just be in crime, you said that you do admin law as well.
Yes.
Does that mean sort of branch into immigration as well?
We do immigration. We've got an immigration section.
Yeah, we do. So we have two migration lawyers and a human rights lawyer in our team. And so we do a lot of crossover work because a number of our clients are facing deportation as a result of the charges. They do standard migration law work as well in our firm. Yeah, just partner visas and things. But yes, so that it is a good crossover.
Yeah, it isn't on your website.
No.
Do immigration.
we
need to do
we have it.
We're very busy.
We have it under FDL migration. So when we originally did it, we did it as a different sort of brand, but we're probably bringing it back in, so to speak, for that exact reason. It was more a test case of that high marketing brand saturation stuff that people tell me about, so I did that.
Ebony?
Lauren, in terms of branding, how have you branded or marketed yourselves? How do you appeal to new clients? And how have you kind of established, I guess, the firm's branding?
I just use Nick Dore.
I
work for Nick Dore.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, without sounding arrogant, I had a pretty good brand there about 4 or 5 years ago. I had a very good following. I catapulted off the back of Terry Fisher to a degree. He had a very good reputation. I'd worked with Peter Russo for a long period of time. And I hired really good people. You know what I mean? I made sure I had, when I saw people that I thought had potential, I would hire them. And I was always on all the tools. I was always doing file reviews. I was always talking to the prosecutors. I just built up a way that I was an approachable person. The hardest part about crime is, but the easiest thing to do as a lawyer, is once you make that connection with somebody, you've got them for life unless you really stuff something up or you have falling out. Because the hardest thing you imagine doing is, I've been charged with offence. It's confronting at the best of time. You read this on people's websites, you know what I mean? It's being charged with a crime is very confronting. It's good to have the best lawyer in town. But you know, you can read it. Really? So I removed all that sort of stuff and thought, well, let's just actually do that. Let's make sure that when people come and see you, they're not greeted by a fool, but, you know, that it's as comfortable as possible. The waiting rooms are comfortable, that people who see them are comfortable, that people who recommend them, they go, that Nick Dore's a nice person. Because I was nice to them on the phone. Like I was saying earlier about the DPP referral. You know what I mean? All the referrals that I get from them, they go, you've got a very bad situation. You don't want to be met with arrogance or, you know, oh, a lawyer, I'm so smart. And we are. We're arrogant and we are smart. But the brand was always there. And I think that carried a lot of weight without being funny, particularly from me and how we built it up. And then I'd hire people who were the same. I'd hire people who were nice people, who I knew I could trust. If someone walked in the room, they wouldn't be made to feel that big. We've explained. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's a quick process. I obviously worked in another firm and they had their own reputation, and seeing Fisher Dore, even when I was working in this other firm, I thought, geez, I'd love to work there because they just seem to do a good job. They're all over it. And over the last 12 months since I've been the expansion, the work coming in from the building of that reputation, it's not, you know, we're not putting advertisements up on the billboards. It's not that type of work. It's more being there, doing a good job, and people seeing you doing a good job and telling their mates and all that.
Just on marketing, how much marketing do you do as like a new sort of grad, or does most of it just come through the firm?
Most of it comes through the firm, but then again, it's a personal thing of networking, and you never know when someone's friend is going to get charged. And so for me, it's about getting out there, turning up to events like this and turning up to just having a beer with someone, that kind of personal marketing. I don't have a Facebook page or anything like that. But.
No, and marketing crime is just hard in general because, again, no one ever wants to use you. No one ever wants to say, I know a really good criminal lawyer. The first question someone asks is, well, how do you know that person? You know what I mean? So marketing itself is a really difficult thing to do because also too, you know, to answer your question earlier, how can you market something that some people find really hard to comprehend? You know what I mean? You're marketing a skill that could see a dangerous person return to the street. So you don't want to be flashy or bragging like you can in other areas. We're the best conveyancing lawyer, or we're this, or we can do this, or we can do it cheaper. That human side makes it very difficult to do. That's why there's such an emphasis in my firm to just be really good at what you do. Don't bullshit and don't lie. Lying is a key. If you do something wrong, just say I did something wrong. Or I don't know the answer. Just don't lie.
Up back.
So how do you deal with the perception that criminal lawyers are like bad people defending criminals, and what's your response to people when they give you that question?
Well, my usual response, if your son or you're in trouble, you probably want to look after you, wouldn't you? You know what I mean? I get a lot of people who refer me, and I've been relatively outspoken in the past a long time ago in relation to certain politics and certain changes that occurred in certain governments, things like like that lots of people who I was outspoken against prefer to be their clients. You know what I mean? Lots of police officers prefer to be their kids. You know what I mean? So I usually don't go on the offensive. It is what is. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. You know what I mean? I don't particularly like, there's lots of stuff I don't like.
Would you say you deal with it the same way a doctor treats patients?
Yeah, I think so. I think. Look. The reality is, you don't. It's hard to turn on and off. Like you don't just get in your car after doing. I sat in a room with someone who just murdered someone 15 minutes before, butt naked, covered in blood, chained to a chair with a dead person sitting there. You know what I mean? You don't just. And look, guys. That doesn't happen all the time. That's not a usual Tuesday. That's just one of those things that sort of happen that you don't unsee that. But you just sort of, I think it is almost like a doctor. You just sort of put it in a box and put it over there to sit in.
At Fisher Dore, what would you say your legal ratio is?
Oh, God, I wouldn't know. I've never done the maths. I wouldn't know. I mean,
Just from a practical aspect, legal is expanding, so would you say the private sector is probably going to shrink and it's going to be even harder to get into private?
No. Look, potentially. I mean, look, legal aid have got a real push on at the moment to pinch it. I'm not about that. Disco knows I say that. Like it doesn't matter. I think that if you're really good at what you do, see, the big problem is I don't like to give, it's like the Colonel's 11 secret herbs and spices. I don't want to give away all the secrets to a good business. But people look at criminal law as not being a business. They look at it as like this periphery of, 2 or 3 lawyers just battling away and doing this, that, and the other. But I think of it as like any business. If you're good at business and you've got a good product, you've got a good brand, I don't think you worry about what your competitors do. If your competitors get bigger, then you work out a way to beat them. You work out a way to get more of it and stuff like that. So from my perspective, I'm not worried about it. I know lots of other people are worried about it. I think it will consume some other people. But, I know the secret for all those people, what they should do. No. I think small firms are going to be a much harder thing to navigate and keep afloat. I think some small firms should bite the bullet and do some merging and stuff like that to create. And you also got to remember too, there's a reason why the Mitchell-Ellisons and the Cullen Robinsons, all these sorts of firms are so attractive to people, to graduates and to this, that, and the other. One, there's the brand to a certain degree. 2, they're in pretty flash buildings. And 3, they offer security. You know what I mean? They offer a employment graduate positioning program that crime can't compete with. The person sitting there says, if you come and do my photocopying for 3 months, I'll think about putting you on, isn't creating a graduate opportunity for you. You know what I mean? They're not. What they're creating is someone who does their photocopying for 3 months and then trying to find someone else who does it. So I think criminal lawyers, we have ourselves to blame in relation to that perception. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to do something about that perception as much as I can. I can only do 3 or 4 people at a time, but I think there'd be an easier way to do it than what's currently going with legal aid consuming everyone and everyone trying to find it.
Erin?
There was a bit of discussion earlier about specialisation into skills such as client care and that sort of thing. Would you say there's much specialisation in terms of areas of criminal law? And how does that work within your firm?
Some people, I guess their backgrounds. I've got a person who's a law clerk at the moment, will be a law clerk for a little while, I imagine. He's a mature age person. But his background was accounting. And he worked at the CCC for a period of time. So he's the person who now does my confiscations. You know what I mean? That's what he does. He's not a lawyer, and I say that to my clients. I'm hopeless. But this is the person who can do that. If their background was in Commonwealth DPP, Krista's my ex-Commonwealth prosecutor. She's the person you need. And it's also good too because you get to internally brand to clients and offer a range of service. But I'm always trying to get people to say, if you just want to be good. So you're good at appeals. You do more appeals than anyone else in Australia. Lauren's the appeals guru. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do an appeal, and I would say to my client, look, be involved if you want, but makes the person run, jail. So you can do it.
And it just sometimes develops.
Yeah.
Or you bring a skill set from somewhere else along the way.
But from my perspective, I'd be happy to have some academies that I really want to do that. Then I'd say, well, I'll train you into the fraud expert. Let's give you the frauds. There you go.
Do you find in your experience over the years that more people start at the DPP and move to private criminal defence, or vice versa over their career, like they start in more the public sector to get that courtroom experience and advocacy and proving criminal charges, and then with that wealth of experience come back to private where they can use those skills? And
I see that with barristers a fair bit. There's a number of barristers that we brief now who are excellent that have come from a prosecution background.
Or been ex-police.
Or ex-police, and we quite like that because they come with that extra knowledge base of procedures and processes that we don't have the experience in. Solicitors not so much. No. I'm just trying to think of examples, but I think generally we see people once they go into one or the other, they tend to stay there a bit more. Yeah.
Let's see, one piece of advice that you wish you were given when you were just starting out, or that you wish you could have given your graduate self.
Oh, jeez.
Same
thing. 3 months. And
Well, to someone else, I think I'd say, bite the bullet, do the work experience, put yourself out there. And I did that, and it's made it a lot easier for myself to become a solicitor and have a job. And, I'm moving firms. I was able to move to Fisher Dore a lot easier than someone else trying to get a job at Fisher Dore. So putting yourself out there, do some free work. I see all the time. I'm still in fellow suicidal law students at Page, and people offering work experience, and then people going, "Oh, you're not getting paid." But the reality is, not all the jobs are going to be able to pay you to do a few weeks' work experience. Bite the bullet, have a few weeks of work during doing some free work experience and working at Woolies at night. That's, I think, doing some stuff for free. You just got to do it sometimes.
I went to the Queensland Law Society event that they had at the start of the year, and it was like all the firms got together and talked with it. And I was actually asking a lot of firms, like, how do you get experience? Like, I don't know anybody in the legal field. So I was like, can you do free work experience? And a lot of them were saying, no, we only do clerkships. We don't take on. So, like, how do you go about getting that experience? Like, how do you break down that barrier so that you can get the free work experience?
You need to network.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Well, it's hard. Agreed. Agreed. But there's only so much that a firm can control with that.
Yeah.
There's only so many people, any firm, whether we're down that end or up this end or whatever, that we can sort of do. You know what I mean?
Which is why we created our flagship
we're
program.
trying to get people foot in the door.
Yeah, but we were just swamped. Like, I don't know, however many a day. Sometimes we would get through of resumes, and it was out of control. So that's why we have these designed programs now to control the time period, the date. I interview people before they come in, things like that.
In that respect, is that why regional would be better, because they might not get so swamped because they're not in the city?
And it's also too, you've got to have, when you have work experience people on, or when you have volunteers and stuff like that, you've got to supervise them, you've got to train them. There's risks associated with it, there's confidentiality, there's, I don't know this person. Here's a folder with some dead people photos in it. What are they going to do with that? But there's a lot of work that comes with it. There's also perception too that you don't necessarily want to be using people for, free work, and there's a lot of people who've done that in the past. That's why, as much as I'd love to give everyone a job that I could, or, offer them a clerkship, offer them something, you just sort of can't. But you also then don't want to be, we've seen firms do it, they're rotating people through to answer their phones, to do appearances for free. It's against the law to be utilising people in such a way. That's what we just sort of had to say that.
Maybe try a volunteering position somewhere. See if you can get into Caxton, or there's Women's Legal Service. There are others, but those are the two that are on my mind. But just somewhere, and even if you can perhaps just go and sit with one of the, I know more senior law students attend and give advice, but you could just sit with a lawyer and you'll get to know that lawyer. And if you're impressing them, they'll talk about you. And eventually something would come. Yeah. But volunteering is a good one. Yeah.
Add to that as well. I'm trying to graduate next year and I'm working in a customer service background. Just to give a bit of encouragement, you can bang on $100, and when lawyers are charging so much per hour to consult with a client, it's so hard to get a reply. Like, if you knock on $100, one person will get back to you, and they might be able to suggest someone that if they can't do the position that you're hoping to do with them, they might refer you to someone else.
You know, look, you'll get a reply from me or from Lauren. It may be 5:52 on a Saturday morning when I do that side of the job. That's right. And I'll usually say to people, if I hear something, are you happy enough for me to send your resume along? I don't necessarily do that for every work experience person, you know what I mean? But any graduates or anyone who's, you know what I mean, been referred to and done whatever, of course you do. And you do actually do that, because you would be surprised how many times you sit there and someone goes, shit, I really need someone to come and give me a hand. I've got this big job on. I've got a resume of the day from this person that Bill knows. You shoot it over and I'll see what I can do. And some people now run big law firms as a result of those connections that and every single person who did PLT with me for many years got a job. Only because, not with me, but with someone else. And one of them now runs their own law firm with another person that PLT with me.
So you're that one person for me.
Yeah.
Just to get that email back.
Yeah, that's right.
Gives you that extra punch just to keep on going.
And can I tell you, I do read them. That was me. I was applying for the job. Mitch Ellison doesn't want Nick Dore, you know what I mean? Which is probably understandable. Because I had no idea what all that sort of stuff was about. But, I went down to Woodridge and did my own clerkship down at Woodridge for 2 years, $11,000. Drove from my Kangaroo Point down there. Everyone got yelled at by somebody who wasn't the greatest person in the world. And, wanted to get into law. Met a fellow named Peter Sagers, who runs Howden Sagers, who just come from legal aid. And it was just one of those things, smoking cigarettes in the Kmart car park in 2001. So yeah, don't. And that's what it was. And that was, I drew it out and I drew out the plan. I drew out the model. And said, how does this go wrong? Sam does that sort of stuff still now. He raises his with me. And you just do it. You're sitting there right. But every single resume. And the ones who knocked me back in the day, I still have all those. You know what I mean? And lots of those people. Now, I'm far better. And I'm going to be arrogant and say I run a far better law firm than they do, and I'm a far better lawyer than they do. But back in that day, I really wanted to work in that firm. But the ones who sent me responses said, Nick, I'm really sorry about that. And I don't have anything on the books at the moment. I think you'll do really well. I've still got those. And when you look at those people, the people who did that spoke volumes 20 years ago. Some of them retired. And they were like that in real life. You know what I mean? The ones who didn't respond are the ones who were like that in real life as well. So you're always an extension. You come back to your question. Always be who you really are. Looking back, when you finish university, well, one advice to give yourself is don't be a wanker. Without being funny, don't. There's no, as much as it looks good on the TV and as much as there's arrogance, this, that, just don't be one. Just be yourself. If yourself is a wanker, I'm sorry about that. That's just what's going to happen. Nothing, there's no adjustment you can make for that. But in the end of the day, just, be good to other people. And it's really hard. You guys have got a really hard job ahead of you. We are producing so many graduates. You know what I mean? That we go up and do these admission ceremonies. We know how long they take because we get jammed in the lifts with grandmas all the time. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. But there are a lot of people. When I did it 25 years ago, we had one admission in January, and 150 of us turned up. And we got admitted. And even then, it was hard to get jobs. You know what I mean? But now every 3 months, we've got 70 people. We've got this occurring. We had to get in 2001 because QUT brought in whatever it's called, PLT, back when it was called something else. And as a result of people only doing, because they used to go for a year, full time, in the year, pretending it was an office, that we had to then bring in another admission ceremony in June because they cut that back to 6 months. So it wasn't until 2005, I think, we started having more than those admissions. So the marketplace has changed significantly. It's really hard, so as much as door knocking and sending resumes and doing this, that, and the other, be really good at what you do. Like, you're going to have to study. That might be the thing that gets you above someone else. If I've got the same applicant, identical on paper, there has to be something that as an employee, you can't sit there and have an hour and a half consultation. When you might bring up 3 of the interview process, but you've got to make that decision straight away. And it's an awful decision to do. You know what I mean? It's awful to go, well, that person, well, I might crush that person's dreams. Or I may have gotten rid of the next Nick Dore. And I might actually, next line fell, you know what I mean? Or whatever, you know what I mean? So just, guys, I have a lot of empathy towards what you guys are facing. It's really hard market. And trying to get in the crime is even harder. You know what I mean? But don't give up hope. You know? But,
just with that, so
Yeah.
what do you look for in a resume or a cover letter that could set you apart from somebody else? Like, what should we mention about?
some short, well, you do more of this. I mean, you know.
Keep it short.
Yeah.
Keep it punchy. I'm a big fan of dot points. Nick has taught me to be a fan of dot points in my all manner of communication. So just tell us why you want to do work experience, why you think that you should. I get that you're all very committed to social justice. I get that a lot. And I understand that, otherwise you wouldn't be interested in doing this area. So something else. Explain why your GPA is awesome or why it's not so great. If you're from an area where you've seen perhaps some social disadvantage or something like that, then that's interesting to me more than just a dedication to social justice. It has to be something. There's no perfect formula, unfortunately, but it's just something that makes you stand out. And that's different for everybody. So. But if you tell me in your letter that you've listened to what I've said tonight, I'll pay attention to that. And I say that at the expo as well, because we meet, I don't know, it feels like 1,000 students that day that come through and ask exactly that question, like what should I put in my application? And if I tell them, make it 5 dot points and introduce yourself to me again in the letter, and then they do that, I do remember them and I do notice that they've done that.
Yeah. So, I mean, sell yourself. Tell me why you're good, why I should. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to read 7 pages to get to that point. Don't be arrogant about it, but, I am really good at business. I ran a real estate agency for 4 years in my previous life, and I hit all my targets and KPIs. These are words I like. You know what I mean? And I'm not expecting that. Some of you guys haven't like real estate agency with KPIs. But, something that, dear Mr. Dore, we think you're the greatest law firm in the world. We think you're this, we think you're that. We see that you know what I mean? It's good. You've got to suck up a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, it's really what can you bring to the organisation? Because that's what the big firms down there are looking at. What can this person bring to me? If they can bring smarts, happy days. If they can bring connections to churchy, even better. That's combined with smarts. If they can do, you know what I mean? That's what they, you know what I mean? Whatever school, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you've got to remember these people, lots of these firms have, massive HR departments. That's their job is to source people, test people, do things like that. You know what I mean? You've got to set yourself out one way as to what can you bring to the firm, not necessarily, I would like to come to your firm because I think I can learn a lot from you. What can you bring to the firm that's going to help something culturally, professionally, whatever.
And I'll bet you if I find a typo.
Yeah.
You're
Proofread.
immediately. And we get them. Yeah. You're an excellent commercial law firm.
That's right. Or dear Mr. O'Gorman.
Yeah.
One mate.
Yeah.
Chop it off.
Yeah. So you failed the attention to detail test.
Yeah.
So we look at all of that because if you can't even do that in your letter, you're not going to do it in our office, and that's not enough.
You don't send them through 2:32 a.m. You know what I mean? Our phones do go ding. You know what I mean? Because we do keep them on for daddies when they call. So when you go, what was that? Yeah. And that's just human nature, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then we'll think about it time management as well. So we'll judge you for that.
Sorry, another question.
Yes.
Just when you said you keep the phone on the baddies, so are you kind of like working around the clock all the time?
Yeah, we have a 24-hour number. So my phone's always on. But there's always someone dedicated to an after hours number. There's an expectation within the firm that just again happens by osmosis as opposed to dedicated. Yes, but yes, it was always
rotated fairly through the firm.
Yeah. It's just something that's always been done. And eventually, what happens is, as you get more experience and your number gets handed out, you sort of get off the rotation because you get your own phone calls. You know what I mean? Like, I've missed 4 now since being sitting here, and 11 emails, you know, that are all work related. So yeah, it's here to sort of keep it on. But it's rotated down, I think.
I do a roster.
You do.
Yeah.
I was sorry, so they come from a shift work background and for like 10 years.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
3 a.m. like hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's fair, and we've got a good number of staff, so it's what do you get it once a week?
Yes.
Once a fortnight.
Once a fortnight.
Yeah, that's right.
But then we've also got our personal, our mobile numbers, and a lot of our clients' numbers. So a lot of the time we do have to be accessible at all hours. It's not that common, other than, you know, if you nick or something.
So is that kind of like an industry standard as well?
I think you got to meet the market to do it, because I think
you miss out on the client if you're not answering your phone.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's more the fact that not necessarily standard. I think you just do it because if they can't get a hold of you, they might. And there's not a lot you can do at 3 o'clock in the morning when the police have got you. It's just a matter of saying to the mum or the person's got it, mate, we'll get someone to the police, get someone called tomorrow for it.
You ever had to go down at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, lots of times. I had to fight a Proserpine once at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The son had chopped open his bloke's stomach in the middle of the street, and they was in hiding. He just it was Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock. Planes do fly Proserpine from Brisbane. It's at 6 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. It's not uncommon. It's a lot of Saturday morning bail applications. I mean, look. I did a lot of that years ago to build the firm up. So with my staff now, you don't go do it unless you get the okay from me. Because sometimes it leads to nothing. Going down to Woodridge Police Station on Easter Sunday, I would never say to my staff, go do it. If I thought there's some value in it, I would go and do it on the partners to go do it. There's also a boundary in relation to people's personal times. But if someone elects to go and do it because of that real go-getter, I don't expect my staff to hand their mobile phone numbers. There's an after-hours mobile phone number. A client can ring that, okay? But if someone says to me, Nick, I really want to do that, I really want to have my phone number out there, I'm prepared to go to a police station 2 o'clock in the morning to build a client base and to build a reputation as being that person who does that. More power to you. You know what I mean? Yeah. But there's not expectation from me.
Sorry to jump back to the previous slide, but it's in lines with basically work experience and
I'm getting rid of it.
Summarize the question quickly. How early is too early in one's legal training to sort of get into that work experience, that sort of thing? And from the context, I'm happy to use myself as an example. I'm a mature age student and left one career and very keen to get stuck into the next one. Are you open to work experience with people like first year? That sort of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. And in your letter, you would say, I'm only first year, but here's why I'm awesome, and I should come and do work experience now, because I think that starting early is more beneficial. And look, I think it is. I don't think you can ever be too early to start your work experience. You know, Sam's been in the legal industry and he's only 22.
I was 19 when I did my first work. I'd freshly turned 19 when I did my first work experience. I hadn't even done criminal law when I had my work experience. I got the job I worked in for 6 months, and then I did criminal law at uni and realised a lot of the issues they were having, what they were saying was a bit wrong. But it's never too early. I was 19. I was, still pretty much a kid in an industry dealing with people from all walks of life. So.
Yeah, I only just turned 20 as well when I started. Yeah, the longer the better. Yeah.
Question back. Just to change the topic.
Yes.
How does social media change the way that the criminal law world works?
For the worse. It's great because what social media has allowed people to do is get themselves very easily convicted of offences, or to be able to dissect someone's life in about 15 seconds that you could never do before. You know what I mean? It's had a staggering effect. We ran that whole trial on a recording and a Tinder, you know what I mean? That was it. That's what a trial was. We ran a murder trial. Never heard of it, 2 posts on Tinder, CCTV footage and a recording. Technology's killing us. Listing devices is killing crime. Probably a good thing. But it's also increasing crime. So you've got to remember with stats, there's this big increase in relation to things. It's not, it's just there's more technology now to pinch people. Crime isn't rising. Crime was always there, but in relation to the social media aspect, it's ridiculous. From a professional perspective, I am not against it per se, but I have pretty strict policies and regimes in relation to how people use it. There are some lawyers who don't see any social boundaries in relation to commenting on their cases. Oh, had a great day today, got a bloke off this or did that. But I'm not a big fan of that. But in relation to prosecuting and defending crimes, it's a game changer.
I'm just looking to get a bit of context in terms of how the work life is in criminal law.
Yes.
So in some civil firms, they have different sport teams, or they go as a firm to, or a few select people on the firm go to different charity things, for example, legal service, breakfast and that sort of thing. Does Fisher Dore do that sort of thing as well? And what sort of things do you do?
Sure. Within the Brisbane firm, we've got a netball and a TRL team. And we played on the weekend at the Law Society Touch Tournament. We always have a table each year. There's a number of different breakfasts, like the White Ribbon Breakfast. There's a Women's Legal Service one as well. I think that's separate. We have a number of our staff volunteer at different organisations. So I know we've got 2 or 3 that are at Caxton. And in our regional areas as well, they volunteer at local community legal centres. We try and do a couple of social events throughout the year. We mix that up each year. It depends on where it mix in. I mean, what else is? We did the Bridge to Brisbane. We've done that a couple of times as a firm. Not, there's no pressure on everybody to attend these things, but the options are always there.
Sport, there's charity. We had a charity function in a financial year. Went to, so we do. It's not, it's not as Richmond. I don't have a cultural ambassador or something like that, so as to speak. But I do try to do it as best.
We've also become this year a corporate sponsor of Pride in Law. And we're making a point of attending all of their events as well. I think it's a great initiative.
A lot of this, we encourage people to do this. If it was an exhibition Tuesday, I'd probably have 1 or 2 other statements here a little bit more relevant to your age bracket. But I'm on the Credit Specialist Committee of the Queensland Law Society. I'm an equity and diversity. I encourage people to get involved in other things other than crime. It isn't all about Fisher Dore Lawyers. That's all I can do. I don't make you get tattoos. One firm used to have rings they used to have when they, you got your partner. Really.
So how did you go about starting your own firm?
I did out of spite. To be honest with you, I did. Someone really annoyed me one day, and I thought, well, you know what? No. Look, I saw a hole in the market to a degree, and I took a risk. I had Terry Fisher, who was over at West End at the time. He was looking at, he had a reasonably good brand but a very bad business model, and I didn't want to work. My career progression in another firm was taking me somewhere I didn't really want to go. My mum had just died of cancer, so I was sort of in a bit of a, anyway, there was a variety of reasons, but I really wanted to do it myself. I really thought I can do this, and I really wanted to create something that I had created. So in those 5-10 year sort of goal things, I've sort of exceeded what I thought I would have done during that period. But that was part of it, was to push. I was 29, I didn't have any kids, wasn't married at the time. There was a lot of reasons, but it just made sense to do it in that part of my life because I didn't like the way criminal law was going in Queensland, to be honest with you.
When you say hold the market, what do you mean? Was there not enough criminal law firms? Did you want to create one, or you like the way they were?
Look, that's a really hard question to answer. I'm just going to leave it as a hole in the market. I mean, look, you've got to remember, it's 13 years ago until the market's changed. There was a hole in the market.
What were the difficulties you experienced in setting it up?
Financially, it was hard. I had a pretty good client base. I had some instruction from some other people in the profession who weren't happy with me doing it. But it was long hours. It was, there was just two of us and a PA running 250 files. And now I would have 250 files in my office now represents 3 solicitors, 2 PAs and a clerk. So it was me and Terry doing it ourselves. So, it was big hours. I was the bookkeeper. I was the person doing a blog. I was the person who then sat down and did this. And I was very lucky. I mean, again, it's because of good people. I've had the same office manager 17 years now. So she's come with me from Sharon, from firm to firm, you know what I mean, helped me set things up. So again, it wasn't all me. I've been lucky in relation to the people I've had. But it was hard. Paying the rent's hard. Trying to get a bank to go, okay, we'll give you an overdraft. So they didn't give me an overdraft. They wouldn't give me any money. So I had $5,000. I said, well, that's what I'm going to use. I've got $5,000. That was my bank balance, so I don't give you an overdraft. I've never had an overdraft since. You know what I mean? Just gone, well, yeah. I mean, if you want to do it, you can do it. You just got to, be realistic about it.
Do we have any last questions? One more, up the back.
Has a client scared you or threatened you in any way that's actually affected your, like when you went home, you're like, oh, that actually,
I've got 3 saved in my phone as threat person 1, threat person 2. 0 for 0. That was the one who threatened to rape and murder my family one Saturday night. Threat person 2 was the person who left the bullet during Dennis Ferguson's thing. Yeah, you do. I mean, you're dealing with unhinged people in some situations, and you're dealing with people who aren't necessarily consequentialists or blame people, you know what I mean? You're the reason why my son went to jail. No, I'm not the reason why your son went to jail. You're someone in jail because he's a drug trafficker. That's why your son's in jail. Deal with that. So, I have been. Not recently. I think people now with modern technology, the threats are a lot less because that's, old school Nokia 511 that's just gone over 5 different phones that I've had. It's always been saved in there as a reminder. But I don't think it's as much these days. And it's a different style of practice again where, that sort of clientele is changing a lot. Jen, have you been threatened?
No, not specifically.
On the bloke trying to kill me in the cells in Supreme Court.
Oh, yeah. 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 But I was okay about it. And I've had a few moments where I've walked through, and again, I don't think anything would ever have happened, but you just sort of have a bit of a feeling where I've walked through the jail on a visit and have been caught in, so they have holding areas. It's a bit hard to describe. It's like sort of a star, I guess, and they have a holding area in the middle, and I managed to get myself caught in with a large group of prisoners. And had to walk through them, and no one would really part their way, so I had to through. That was a little moment for me, but I don't tell my mum any of those things. She thinks I sit in my office all day. But yeah, that's about it, really. But look, when you're in the jail, you have a beeper with you for duress or whatever.
But I take it, but don't get me wrong, I'm cavalier, but I take it very seriously. If any of my staff was threatened the other day by an absolute lunatic out of jail, and I take it very serious. That person's cut off. I'm sure that there's, if they require counselling or something on those sorts of lines, it's there. It isn't certainly, it isn't a beer man macho sort of stuff. It's someone says they're going to kill you until you've had someone say they're going to kill you. Someone with experience.
And we've had, recently we had a client of the firm who sort of said some threatening things to a staff member outside a courtroom, and so we've dealt with that. That staff member won't have to have contact with that person again, and there are all manner of avenues that we then go down with that staff member.
Go to the police. These 3, threat person 1, 2, and 3, I went to the police and all 3 of them. I had a complaint. Someone threatened to rape and murder my children. Yeah, that's a criminal offence.
We've had drugs delivered to the office. We call the police.
People use it, but people use in the jails. They use your letters to smuggle drugs through. So when they get returned to sender, go for nothing. We'll close down, it goes up. I ring the drug squad. You know what I mean? I know people in the drug squad. Friends of mine come up here and got some more drugs. Hi, Nick. I think it might be heroin. Good wise for that. And I think it's probably it.
I think that's a very interesting note to end on for the evening.
Welcome to the law.
But I'd like to thank each of our panelists tonight for the insight and guidance that you provided and the very interesting discussions that we've had. So a round of applause for us.
And while I've got you all here, we have an education event next week on Thursday for